breaking, hot off the press. Hey, it's me, Albatross, by the way. But listen, The Guardian just put out an article, well, kind of hot off the press. It's a few hours old. But today, just a little while ago, The Guardian put out an article. And this article is called, quote, "This is a coup," unquote. "Trump and Musk purge is cutting more than costs, says experts." And I read through it, and it's really, this article is so full of logical fallacies that I felt compelled to come on and talk about it. I'm just going to read through a little. I'm not going to read the whole thing, I don't think. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. And just so you can see what kind of like tactics that the media is using these days to confuse and manipulate what's actually going on. Okay, here we go. It starts with, in slashing staff and disabling entire agencies, the administration is lacerating the structures of U.S. democracy. And I'm going to stop there and list the logical fallacies that are implied. First, we got a post hoc fallacy. And that fallacy is basically, they're saying that just because they're doing this, that means that this is going to happen. It's like, kind of like a fake cause and effect, like, scenario. You know what I mean? That just because that they are cutting down on the staff and getting rid of entire agencies, they're ruining democracy. That's not actually true. That's a fallacy in so many ways. That's not true. Because most people would agree that if these agencies or if these people were corrupt and actually hurting the United States, then we would actually, that would be different. But that's not the context they're putting it in, you see. They're going to paint it in this light. This is the light The Guardian is choosing to paint it as. But that was just the first sentence. Let's continue. Donald Trump and Elon Musk's radical drive to slash billions of dollars in annual federal spending with huge job and regulatory cuts is spurring changes that may have made illegal moves while undercutting congressional and judicial powers, says legal experts, Democrats, and state attorneys general. First of all, so many. Let's back up to the first sentence. Donald Trump and Elon Musk radical drive to slash billions of dollars in annual federal spending. Why is that radical? This is not something new that the government does or that the president does. You know what? In fact, I'm going to list a Democrat example. Like Bill Clinton. Back in 1993, he came up with a plan. He came up with a plan for cutting costs and reducing waste by doing this exact same thing that The Guardian is describing right here. The same thing. Like, getting rid of unnecessary costs. Whole entire agencies if necessary. Now, I'm quoting Bill Clinton. This is Bill Clinton, a much-loved Democrat. So why is this something radical all of a sudden? And that was just one example. There's many other presidents who have done this. So this is not radical. This is not new. They're just making it sound that way. My opinion, what it sounds like. Okay, what's the next sentence? Okay. To slash billions of dollars in federal annual spending with huge job and regulatory cuts. Yeah, okay, yeah, we covered that. Regulatory cuts, you mean like as far as like the privacy of it all? I know that that's like a big word they're using there about privacy. Well, because you gotta imagine it like this. Could you imagine at your job, if you worked at a job, right? The person that, let's just say the CEO, for example. Let's take the CEO, right? If they decided to do like a whole bunch of spending, you know what I mean? Like going against what the shareholders' interests and their profits and what they want, right? Just imagine when they go to that meeting, the CEO telling the shareholders, oh, well, it's none of your business what I'm spending your profits on. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Well, it's kind of like the same situation here. Us American taxpayers, we're the ones paying the federal government's bills. We're paying for all this. We're paying for all this waste. We're paying for all this. So why don't we have a right to know what it's being spent on? Why don't we have that right? It's our money that we're paying. And also, let's not forget that he won the election. This is what the American people voted for. Just like the election before, Biden got to come in and like do what he wanted, except Biden didn't like to tell anybody about any of this stuff that he was doing. But that was his choice. Now, this is the new president that the American citizens voted for, whether we like it or not. I mean, and this is exactly what he said he was going to do. This is what he said he was going to do, and people still voted for him. So, what is the problem? It almost sounds like, what does it sound like to you when most of the people in the country votes for someone, but yet they make it sound on the TV and this small group of people, it's like a small group of people that's like doing this, but they happen to be the ones who like own. It's just wild to me that like they're just totally ignoring what people voted for. I mean, even if you didn't vote for it, you've still got to acknowledge that we live in a democracy where that's the way democracy works. I mean, even if we didn't go by the what we used, which is I know very controversial, the electoral college vote. Even if we hadn't gone by that, even if we had just simply gone by the popular vote, he still would have won. He still would have won. So it's kind of irrelevant. But I continue because there's more. There's more fallacies in here. First, they say that it's spurring charges that they made illegal moves while undercutting congressional and judicial powers. Yeah, but these congressional and judicial powers need oversight too. They need oversight too. And also, one more thing I'd like to say about Elon Musk. I mean, he's not really whatever. But every other president got to choose who they, like, so, what the? So, like, stop. Stop. Every other president got to choose their lackeys that we didn't choose. So, stop. Anywho. Pick a new argument, basically, is what I'm saying. Pick a new argument. Okay, so yeah. Oh yeah, and then this paragraph ends with that this is all according that they're, doing something illegal by doing all this according to legal experts, Democrats, and states attorneys general. And that's very important because by the way they're wording this, they're excluding Republicans. So it's like basically they're saying that if you don't, they're implying like, oh, only Republicans don't agree with this. So, like, if you're smart and you're a legal expert, then you'll know that this is, illegal. Like, that's almost what it's implying. Like, why didn't you just leave the whole Democrats out, is what I'm wondering. Because surely you're not saying that. Because this is what's annoying me. It's like they're doing it again. Yet again. With the media, they love to do this. They like to create something like a left and right thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no matter what, whether it's right, wrong, or otherwise, whatever Elon Musk and Donald Trump does, it's going to be a left-right thing. Always. It can never just be them doing the right thing. So no matter what they do, it's going to be wrong. And I have to say, at first, I started to get really mad for a little while because it seemed to me like they were forgetting all the missing kids and stuff. But then when I dug a little deeper into it, I see all of a sudden it starts making sense why all these Democrats are attacking Doge and saying all these things. It's because they are trying to look into the files at ORR about the unaccompanied minors in our country. They're trying to access that. And guess what? Big shock. People are fighting against that. Why? Don't you think those kids have been through enough? You don't think those kids have been through enough? You're going to sit there and watch Selena Gomez cry, think she actually gives a shit about these kids when she never had a word to say about any of the nonsense that's been going on at the border, all the raping, all the trafficking, the horrendous things that have been happening to these kids. Her people that she says, you know what I mean? The horrendous things that have happened. She didn't have one thing to say. Not one thing to say. Now she gets on there and cry. You know what? I mean, this is disgusting. I don't care what your political affiliations are. Our kids are our future. If we're not pulling together to try to find these kids, then what are we doing? You know what I mean? There's a reason that they keep it out of the mainstream media. It's for moments like this when people are actually trying to find them so they can turn it around, you know what I mean? And make it sound like they're trying to invade people's They're making it sound like they're trying to invade the privacy of these immigrants and their families and stuff. But that's not true. And that's not true because they're trying to find the files for the unaccompanied children. And if they're unaccompanied, they're not with their families. You get that? Like they're being fought on things as basic as like fingerprinting and things like that. Do you know that even after Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were well aware, well informed of the horrendous things that were taking place at the border with these children. They were well aware. They knew. This was just in July 2024. In July 2024, like 6 months ago, whenever it was. They literally implemented new measures to make it even easier for sex traffickers to bring these kids over the border and get them into the U.S. So wake up, everybody. Those are the people that these outlets are defending. They're defending pedophiles. Please come back in a little while. I have a 5 or 6 part series that's going to be starting tonight on more into all this and the missing kids and who's behind it or who's enabled it, because I'm not going to wait for them to talk about it on the news. The news media has failed these kids so bad. CNN mostly, but Fox News too, because the only times they ever talked about it was in relation to the election. They haven't talked about it since that I've seen. So, they both have failed, in my opinion. So, we're going to have to come out with our own news, our own research, because they are failing horribly. And these kids need help. They need help now. They needed it yesterday. They needed it 4 years ago when this all started happening. Well, I mean, not when it started, but when it started getting bad. Anyways, come back later. Thanks for listening.